So hazing defined. Hazing is a broad term that encompasses an action or activity which does not contribute to the positive development of a person. It could be something that inflicts or intends to cause physical or mental harm or anxieties, which may demean, degrade, or disgrace any person regardless of location, intent, or consent of participants. And it's any action or situation which intentionally or unintentionally endangers a student for admission into or affiliation with a student organization. I think some of the keywords to look at here are um, intent or consent of participants and intentionally or unintentionally. So you might have something, an organization might have something, and the people might agree to do whatever the activity is, and they might think that the activity is not supposed to harm anybody, but it might unintentionally harm somebody. And even though these people consented to do it, if it is for entering into an organization, it can still be seen as hazing, and it is hazing. So let's just break it down a little bit more by how to identify what hazing is and what to do. So this is the upstander intervention triangle, and we're going to go through all of these different topics right now and how to understand and how to address hazing. The first thing is to notice the type of behavior. So this illustration um, shows a range or spectrum of hazing as it relates to the type and degree of harm, from subtle harassment to violent. And the typical frequency and level of recognition for each type of hazing. If we can increase recognition of the type of hazing that happen within the highest frequency, those which tend to be minimized as a normal part of group culture, we can increase opportunities for intervention in all types of hazing, from the subtle to the most violent. It is important to note how the arrow in the visual points in both directions. Hazing can begin at any point on the spectrum, and behaviors can continue in both directions. The next thing is to interpret it as a problem. There's a lot of different consequences of hazing. Hazing. You can damage relationships, it can cause people unnecessary stress, it can decrease potential learning and social interactions, and it can cause psychological and emotional scars. Once you realize that hazing is not something that brings people together, it actually has a lot of consequences and is harmful, you can move on to the next steps, which is recognizing that you have a responsibility and you should intervene. You may not think it's your place to intervene in hazing if it doesn't directly involve or affect you in an immediate way, as in, that's really none of my business, or I sure hope someone does something to make sure that doesn't happen again. But you may think that there isn't anything you can do, but thinking that there's something that you actually can do can make a huge difference. As in, what about if you thought, what could I possibly do to get other members of my group to think about this differently? Or where would I begin if I wanted to get my group to think differently about hazing? Taking responsibility to intervene in hazing involves shifting your attitudes about where your responsibilities lie, not just in yourself and your own well-being, but also relative to other individuals, to a particular group with which you may or may not be involved. It takes awareness of those around you and tremendous courage to believe that you can make a difference to change the culture of hazing in a group or organization. But everyone, including you, has a role to play in intervening to put a stop to hazing so that we can all live in a haze-free community that's shaped by mutual respect and safety. So now you have to think about the different ways to help. So there's 4 different ways that you can possibly be an active upstander. So the first thing is to directly have some direct action. By directly intervening, for example, you can ask the person to stop, immediately act out, or call out negative behavior, or explain why something's not okay. You can delay the situation, or you can delay after the situation has occurred, check in with the individuals affected, and at a later stage and have time to talk to them. You can cause a distraction. You can de-escalate by interrupting or changing the subject or focus. And then you can also delegate out. Inform somebody who knows more about the situation to intervene, such as somebody from campus safety, the fraternity or sorority life advisor, or somebody with the authority to do something about it. So as I talked before, these are different ways that are direct and indirect to stop hazing. So some of the things that you could do is discourage others who are hazing from continuing with what they're doing, encouraging others not to participate in hazing. Some indirect interventions can be supporting people who have experienced hazing, educating others who have hazed, supporting others who want to prevent hazing, and changing people's understanding of hazing as a problem. Hazing is really serious, and in fact, the government and the legal system takes it very seriously as well. In Florida, there's something called the Chad Meredith Act, which is a bill named for a University of Miami freshman who drowned in a campus lake while trying to join a fraternity in 2001. It makes hazing that results in serious injury or death a felony punishable by up to 5 years in prison, even if the victim consents. So it's something that I was talking about before. It doesn't matter if they agreed to participate in the activity. If that activity is for entrance into something, it's essentially coercion, and so that does not hold up in a court of law. So the hazing policy, as you can see with this person holding the book at the bottom, you can't do that. Students found responsible for hazing may be subject to the withholding of diplomas or transcripts, or probation, suspension, or expulsion. Registered student organizations, which authorize hazing in blatant disregard of these rules, may be subject to denial of permission for the organization to be registered, to meet on campus, use facilities, and the right to exist at Lynn University. There is an amnesty policy at Lynn University, and I think this is important for everybody to know. As a student who seeks if a student needs immediate assistance, they, on behalf of a peer, and they themselves are under the influence of drugs or alcohol or involved in an incident of hazing, they might not receive a code of conduct violation for this as long as they stay with the person who is in harm. So essentially, an example of this would be if you're underage, so you're 19 years old, and you're with people who are drinking, and somebody becomes too intoxicated and they start throwing up really violently, maybe they pass out, maybe they do something and get really badly injured, and you need to call campus safety or 911. The amnesty policy at Lynn University will have it that even though you are underage and drinking, and so is the person who maybe is hurt or in need of help, if you stay with that person and you allow them to get help and you stay while that person is getting help, then you could be forgiven for the actions because you helped out that person and got them help. So I think that's something just really important to know in general. So some things about how to report hazing. The first thing to do is if you're in immediate danger or if there's an immediate threat to safety, to call campus safety. You should all have the number. It's open 24/7 a day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And then if you suspect hazing is happening or going to happen or you feel uncomfortable as a new member, report it to myself. I have my email and my phone number here. And then one of the last things that I want to talk about is the confidential student advocate number. So you should all take down this number. It provides confidential crisis intervention, including creating safety plans, and allows students to confidentially report different things. So this could be confidential reports of sexual or gender-based misconduct, anything with that you need to do arranging safe accommodations, changes of class schedules, etc. This will not trigger a university investigation. It's essentially just support. And if you want to have an investigation afterwards, you can, but this is confidential. And so I think that that is an important thing for you to know as well. So all these things now, you know, for being a potential new member, and we tell you all these things because we want you to be prepared and just know everything about what it is to join an organization through the commitments, to what hazing potentially can look like and how to spot it and how to intervene. So now you'll exit out of this and you'll take the quiz so that you can potentially receive a bid to an organization.